My wife Vanessa told me not to touch her because her doctor had forbidden intimacy. 3 weeks later, I found out her doctor had never said that, and months later that lie followed her into court. Another man had, and she expected me to keep paying for the life she was building behind my back. My name is Ethan Caldwell. I was 51 when my marriage finally stopped pretending to be alive. I lived in Los Angeles, owned a small but successful post-production studio in Burbank, and spent most of my adult life behind editing bays, sound booths, color monitors, and impossible deadlines. I was not famous. I was the man people called when a public image needed to look cleaner than the truth. Commercials, streaming trailers, documentaries, corporate films, music videos when the budget was right. My company had 22 employees, a clean reputation, and enough steady clients that I could afford a house in Studio City with a view of the hills if you stood in the right corner of the upstairs balcony. My wife Vanessa loved that house. She loved the dinner parties, the glass doors, the kitchen island, the way people reacted when she said, "My husband owns a studio." For years I believed she loved the man, not just the lifestyle the man provided. Vanessa was 46, ambitious, beautiful, and terrifyingly good at making people feel chosen. She worked as a brand consultant for wellness companies around Los Angeles, the kind of businesses that sold calm to anxious rich people. She knew how to speak in soft words that sounded expensive. Healing, alignment, feminine power, emotional safety. In public, we looked like a polished, mature couple. The kind people call goals. At restaurants, she would touch my arm while telling stories. At events, she would lean against me for photographs. On social media, she posted captions about marriage restoration testimonies and how long-term love required patience. At home, the same woman who touched my arm for photographs could walk past me like I was furniture she had already decided to replace. The marriage did not collapse in one dramatic night. It cooled one excuse at a time. She started staying later at client meetings in Beverly Hills. She took more calls outside. She guarded her phone like it contained state secrets. She stopped coming to bed at the same time I did. When I reached for her hand, she would let me hold it for a few seconds, then gently pull away like she was doing me a favor. I asked if something was wrong. She said, "I'm just overwhelmed." I asked if I had done something. She said, "Not everything is about you, Ethan." Then came the doctor. One Thursday night, I came home early after finishing a trailer cut ahead of schedule. I bought flowers from a shop on Ventura Boulevard and picked up sushi from the place she liked. I thought maybe we could have a normal evening. No phones. No cold silences. Just two people remembering they were married. Vanessa came downstairs wearing silk pajamas and the expression of someone already irritated by my hope. I told her dinner was on the counter. She said she wasn't hungry. I said maybe we could sit outside anyway. She sighed. I moved closer and touched her waist. Not aggressively. Not suddenly. Just a husband making the mistake of believing his wife still wanted to be reached. She stepped back so fast the flowers shook in my hand. "Don't touch me," she said. The words were flat. I froze. She closed her eyes like she was the one being harmed. "My gynecologist said we need to avoid intimacy for a while. I told you I've been dealing with hormonal issues." No, she had not told me that. But I was too stunned to say it. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't know." Her face hardened. "You shouldn't need a medical reason to respect my body." "I do respect you." "Then act like it." She crossed her arms. "I have self-respect, Ethan. I am not some maintenance plan for your loneliness." That sentence cut deeper than shouting would have. Maintenance plan. As if my desire to be close to my wife was an unpaid bill she was tired of receiving. I slept in the guest room that night, not because I had done something wrong, but because she had made me feel guilty for still loving my own wife. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, feeling ashamed for missing my own wife. The next morning, Vanessa came into the kitchen wearing sunglasses indoors and carrying a matcha latte she had not made at home. She looked refreshed. Almost cheerful. "I need $1,200 transferred," she said. I looked up from my coffee. "For what?" "Wellness retreat in Ojai. Tessa says it will help me process what I'm going through." Tessa Moore was Vanessa's closest friend and professional echo. Divorced twice, always in expensive linen, always explaining that men only understood consequences. She had been whispering in Vanessa's ear for months. I set my mug down. "You told me last night I was your maintenance plan." Vanessa blinked. "That is not what I meant." "You said it clearly." "I was emotional." "And 12 hours later, the husband you pushed away is useful again because you need money." Her mouth tightened. "So you're punishing me financially?" "No," I said. "Last night you called me a maintenance plan. This morning the plan is closed." The kitchen went silent. I watched the phrase land. "What did you just say?" I said no. "I have self-respect too." For a second, she looked genuinely confused, as if self-respect was a luxury item only she was allowed to own. Then came the anger. She called me cold, controlling, unsafe. She said I was proving every fear she had about marriage. She said a real husband would support his wife through a medical issue. I said, A real wife would tell her husband what the issue is before using it as a weapon. She slapped the counter with her palm. You are unbelievable. Maybe I was. Because for the first time in months I did not apologize just to end the noise. I went to work. That evening I drove to Burbank for my Thursday classic car night. It was not poker. It was not a bar. Just 6 middle-aged men meeting twice a month behind an old restoration garage, drinking coffee from paper cups, arguing about engines and admiring machines older than our marriages. My friend Lucas had a 1969 Camaro. Ray had a Mustang convertible he treated better than his own knees. I had a restored black Chevelle that Vanessa called your midlife crisis with tires. Those nights were the only place nobody asked me to perform being okay. Around 9, while Lucas was explaining why modern cars had no soul, Vanessa appeared in the parking lot with Tessa beside her. She had tracked my location from our shared family app. Every man went quiet in that specific way men go quiet when they know another man's private humiliation has just been dragged into public. Vanessa walked toward me like a woman entering a courtroom. We need to talk, she said. I looked at Tessa then back at my wife. No, we don't. Not here. Tessa gave a little laugh. Avoidance. Classic. I stayed calm. Vanessa's voice rose. She said I had abandoned her during a health crisis. She said I was turning intimacy into leverage. She said I was making her feel unsafe in her own marriage. My friend stared at the concrete. I felt humiliation crawl up my neck. Then Ray, the quietest man there, stepped forward. Vanessa, he said, this is not the place. She turned on him. You don't know what he's like at home. Ray looked at me. Then he said, no. But I know what you're willing to do to him in public. That shut her up. For about 3 seconds. Then she pointed at me and said, you'll regret treating me this way. I looked at my wife under the fluorescent lights of a Burbank garage, standing beside the friend who had taught her the language of victimhood, and something inside me finally went still. No, I said. I think I'll regret waiting this long to believe what I'm seeing. That was the night my marriage stopped being only heartbreak and started becoming a timeline. The next morning, Vanessa's mother called before 7. Her name was Diane, and she had the kind of voice that made every sentence sound like a verdict. She lived in Pasadena, wore pearls to breakfast, and believed her daughter's pain was always someone else's responsibility. You humiliated Vanessa, she said. I was in my office parking lot, watching the sun come up behind a billboard for a superhero movie my studio had helped promote. Vanessa came to my private evening with friends and made accusations in public. She's your wife. If she needs you, you go home. She needed an audience. Diane inhaled sharply. You are becoming cruel. No, I said. I am becoming unavailable. She did not like that. Over the next 2 weeks, Vanessa changed tactics so fast it felt like living with 3 different women. In the morning she was wounded. By afternoon, icy. At night, soft and almost nostalgic. She would stand in my office doorway at home and say things like, I miss who we used to be, while her phone buzzed in her pocket and she refused to look at the screen. We were living together like exes before anyone had filed paperwork. People talk about living with an ex after a breakup like it is awkward. Inside a dying marriage, it feels like sharing a house with someone rehearsing testimony against you. It is sharing a refrigerator with someone who is building a case against you. It is hearing her laugh on the patio at midnight while you eat cereal over the sink. It is paying the mortgage while she tells her friends you are emotionally absent. I started documenting everything. Not for revenge. For protection. Because Vanessa had begun using words like financial abuse and coercion. Tessa sent her articles about divorce strategies and tactics. Diane told her to protect herself before he hides assets. Vanessa suddenly wanted copies of tax returns, business valuations, bank statements, insurance policies. When I asked why, she said, a wife should know the full picture. I said, a husband should too. That was when I found the first crack in her story. A billing envelope from a Beverly Hills women's clinic sat on the kitchen counter. Vanessa must have forgotten it under a stack of catalogs. I did not open it. Her name was visible through the plastic window. So was the appointment date. The same date she claimed her gynecologist had told her we needed to avoid intimacy. But the provider listed was not a gynecologist. It was a cosmetic wellness clinic attached to a private medical spa. Dr. Adrian Voss. I knew that name. Everyone in Los Angeles knew that name if they moved near the entertainment world. Adrian Voss was a cosmetic surgeon with a jawline designed by his own marketing team. He appeared on podcasts, dated influencers, sponsored charity events, and sold the fantasy that age was just a branding problem. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Then Vanessa left her iPad open. I was walking past the breakfast nook when the screen lit up with a message from Tessa. Use the doctor excuse again if he pushes. Adrian says Ethan will back off the second you make it sound medical. My hands went cold because the sentence did not sound emotional. It sounded practiced. Another message appeared. Also, don't move out yet. Wife maintenance after divorce is stronger if you show you depended on the lifestyle. I stood there staring. That was when Vanessa walked in. For 1 second neither of us moved. Then she crossed the room and snatched the iPad off the table. "You're spying on me?" "It was open. You had no right." I laughed once but there was no humor in it. "You told me your doctor forbade intimacy." Her face tightened. "He did." "Adrian Voss?" Her silence answered first. Then she said, "You're twisting this. Is he your doctor or your boyfriend?" The word boyfriend sounded ridiculous at our age. But lover sounded too dramatic and affair partner sounded like something a lawyer would say. Vanessa's eyes sharpened. "You have no idea how lonely I've been." There it was, not guilt, not shock, not even a real denial. Just justification. I sat down because my knees had gone weak. "How long?" She looked away. "Ethan." "How long?" Her mouth trembled but not enough to hide the calculation. 6 months. 6 months. 6 months of silk pajamas and locked phones. 6 months of doctor excuses. 6 months of captions about marriage restoration testimonies while another man was touching my wife. I asked, "Did Tessa know?" Vanessa said nothing. "Did your mother know?" "She knew I was unhappy." "That's not what I asked." She snapped then. "You were never present. You were always working, always tired, always in that studio fixing other people's stories while ours died." I stood. "No, Vanessa. Our story did not die from neglect. You buried it under a medical lie and called it healing." Her face changed. For the first time she looked scared. Not sorry. Scared. Because I had finally named the thing she wanted buried under wellness language. I called a divorce attorney that afternoon. Her name was Patricia Lynn, and she had an office in Century City with floor-to-ceiling windows and the expression of someone who had heard every possible version of betrayal. I told her everything. The doctor lie. Tessa's message. Diane's pressure. Vanessa's requests for financial documents. The public scene at the car meet. The fact that we were still living in the same house. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, "Do not move out without a plan. Do not cut off utilities. Do not touch her personal accounts. Do not confront the doctor. Save everything, answer calmly, and from now on, assume every conversation may be used against you." I asked about spousal support. "In California," she said, "temporary support can be an issue, especially with income differences. But misconduct, hidden financial planning, and credibility still matter in negotiation. We need documents. So heartbreak has to become paperwork." "In court, yes," she said. "Even marriage." Over the next month, Vanessa and I lived in the same house like two attorneys sharing a legal exhibit. She wanted me close enough to pay. Far enough not to ask questions. She filed first. That surprised me. Her petition asked for temporary spousal support, exclusive use of the house, attorney's fees, and a share of my studio's increased value during the marriage, the lifestyle package Tessa had called wife maintenance after divorce. In her declaration she described me as cold, controlling, and emotionally punishing after she set healthy medical boundaries. Healthy medical boundaries. That phrase made Patricia smile without warmth. "She wants to make your self-respect look like retaliation," she said. Then she opened a folder. Our turn. Inside were screenshots from the iPad messages Vanessa had failed to delete from the shared backup. Hotel receipts from Santa Monica. A restaurant charge from the same night she claimed to be at Tessa's. Photos from a charity gala where Adrian's hand rested on Vanessa's waist like ownership. And one audio recording. Ray had security cameras at the restoration garage. The night Vanessa came to humiliate me, the cameras caught her saying, "You'll regret treating me this way." Not emotional. Not frightened. Threatening. Patricia leaned back. "She rejected you in private, then tried to punish you in court." I looked at the documents. "No," I said. "She rejected me in our bed, then expected me to support her in court." Patricia closed the folder. "That," she said, "is the story." The hearing for temporary support was held on a gray Monday morning downtown. Vanessa arrived with Diane and Tessa like a small public relations team. Diane wore pearls. Tessa wore white. Vanessa wore a pale blue dress and no wedding ring. I came with Patricia, a quiet suit, and a folder full of the things Vanessa had forgotten could speak. That was the difference between us. Vanessa brought a performance of injury. I brought receipts. Her attorney spoke first. He described a long marriage, a successful husband, a wife who had sacrificed career momentum to support his demanding business, and a home environment that became emotionally unsafe when she set medical boundaries. He said Vanessa needed temporary maintenance to preserve stability. He said she had no meaningful access to funds. He said I had become cold after being denied intimacy. I sat still. Every sentence made me sound smaller, uglier, more dangerous. Then Patricia stood. She did not raise her voice. She simply began placing the timeline in order. The night Vanessa claimed a medical restriction. The next morning's request for retreat money. The messages from Tessa telling her to use the doctor excuse again. The connection to Dr. Adrian Voss. The hotel receipts. The financial messages about wife maintenance after divorce. The request for business valuations before divorce was filed. The recording from the classic car garage. The judge read quietly. Vanessa's face went white. Tessa leaned toward her and whispered something. Patricia noticed. So did the court reporter, she said softly. The judge asked Vanessa one direct question. Was Dr. Voss your treating gynecologist? Vanessa opened her mouth, closed it, then said, he was advising me on wellness matters. The judge looked over his glasses. That was not my question. No answer. The room became so still that even Tessa stopped pretending to look calm. Her attorney requested a pause to confer with his client. The judge granted 10 minutes. In the hallway, Diane approached me. This is unnecessary, she said. You are humiliating her over one mistake. I looked at the woman who had helped turn my marriage into a tribunal. No. I'm refusing to let her turn a lie into a monthly payment. Her face hardened. You'll regret divorcing her. Men always do once they realize what they lost. That was one of Vanessa's favorite fantasies. My ex-husband regrets divorcing me. I said, Diane, I lost her before I filed. The papers just made it legal. The hearing did not go the way Vanessa expected. The judge granted limited temporary support, far less than she requested, and ordered both parties to preserve financial records. He did not give her exclusive use of the house. He warned both sides against harassment, public accusations, and manipulation of shared accounts. Vanessa cried in the hallway afterward. Not because the marriage was ending. Because the script had failed. The next 3 months were strange and exhausting. We still lived in the Studio City house while the divorce moved forward. Separate bedrooms. Separate shelves in the refrigerator. Separate lives under one expensive roof. Vanessa tried one last time to pull me back into the cycle. One evening, she knocked on my office door wearing the perfume she used to wear when we were dating. I miss us, she said, using the same soft voice she used before she needed something. I looked up from a client invoice. What part? She frowned. What do you mean? The part where you lied about a doctor? The part where you slept with Adrian? The part where you tried to make me pay you for rejecting me? Her eyes filled. You make everything sound ugly. No, I said. I stopped decorating the truth so you could live with it. She sat down across from me. Adrian is gone. I was not surprised. Men like Adrian loved being chosen in secret. They did not love being named in documents. Vanessa twisted her hands. He said he didn't want drama. I almost smiled. You left a husband for a man who didn't want drama? I didn't leave you for him. No. You stayed here for the house and went to him for the fantasy. That landed. Her tears finally looked real. I was unhappy. I know. You were distant. Maybe. I felt invisible. I closed the laptop. Vanessa, unhappy people ask for help. They don't create medical lies, build divorce tactics with their friend, and ask the man they betrayed to fund their exit. She covered her face. I don't know who I became. For the first time I believed her. But belief is not the same as return. The final settlement came 2 months later. She received a fair amount, but not the lifestyle package she expected. My studio stayed mine. The house was sold and my portion went into a new condo near Pasadena, smaller, quieter, with no balcony view worth bragging about. I liked it immediately. Vanessa moved into an apartment in West Hollywood with help from Diane. Tessa vanished from the story once Vanessa could no longer afford girls' weekends and spiritual retreats. Adrian's name never appeared again except in one invoice Patricia used during mediation. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Vanessa outside a charity screening in Santa Monica. Los Angeles has 9 million people and still somehow makes you meet the one person you are trying not to think about. She looked beautiful. Tired but beautiful. Ethan, she said. Vanessa. There was a long silence. Then she said, I thought you would miss me enough to regret it. I answered honestly. I missed the wife I thought I had. Then I accepted that she had been gone long before the divorce. She looked down. I used to think betrayal only broke the person being lied to, she said. I was wrong. It breaks the liar too, just later. I did not know what to say to that. She added, Adrian never loved me. No, I said. He loved being chosen by another man's wife. Her eyes watered. Do you hate me? No. Do you regret divorcing me? I thought about the guest room. The doctor lie. The courthouse. The months of living like strangers while she tried to turn my boundaries into cruelty. No, I said. I regret not believing reality sooner. That was the last real conversation we had. A year has passed now. Thursday nights are still for classic cars. Lucas still argues about engines. Ray still makes terrible coffee. I still run my studio but I go home earlier. I learned that success means nothing if your own house feels like a witness stand. I have not remarried. I am not rushing to become someone else's recovery story. But I sleep well. I cook dinner. I answer messages from my employees. I take the Chevelle out on Mulholland when traffic is merciful. Sometimes I sit in my quiet condo and realize nobody is punishing me with silence. That piece is worth more than the house, the balcony view, the dinner parties, and every photograph where we looked happier than we were. So if you are listening to this while living beside someone who has already left you emotionally, remember this. Self-respect is not a speech. It is not a weapon. It is not something you announce while betraying the person who trusts you. Self-respect is the moment you stop funding a marriage where you are only needed as income, evidence, or blame. My wife said her doctor forbade intimacy. Then I learned the doctor was never the reason. The reason was another man, a friend who coached her, a mother who excused her, and a story she wanted the world to believe. But stories need evidence. And the evidence told the truth. She rejected me in our bed. I rejected her lie in court. And for the first time in years, the truth touched me more gently than she ever did. And that is how I finally got my life back. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Elfix Tales. We don't tell you what to think. We follow the journey from betrayal to closure, one story at a time.